Welcome to English Story Vault. Ready to improve your English? Here, we learn through stories, spoken slowly, clearly, and with fun. Just listen, relax, and enjoy the journey. Introduction: Singapore is a very small country. In fact, it's a tiny island. You can drive across it in just about an hour. But Singapore is also one of the richest countries in the world. Many people living there earn high incomes. This is surprising because the country is so small. It also doesn't have natural resources like oil or gas. Singapore is even smaller than many big cities in other countries. So how did this small island become so rich? That's a very interesting question. Long ago, Singapore was just a simple trading port. Ships stopped there during long trips because of its great location. Later, it became a British colony and stayed that way for many years. In 1965, Singapore became an independent country. At that time, it had many problems. There were not enough jobs. Many people didn't have good homes. The country was poor and faced serious challenges. But over time, Singapore changed a lot. Its leaders made strong plans to build homes and create jobs. They worked hard to bring foreign companies to Singapore. First, they built factories. Later, they focused on new industries like banking and technology. They also made the city clean, safe, and beautiful. This helped attract global businesses and more money. Today, Singapore is a modern and wealthy city-state. It has tall buildings, clean streets, and lovely parks. It is a global center for business and finance. But being rich also brings new challenges. Life is very expensive for many people. There are also questions about how the country is run and whether all citizens share the benefits of wealth. In this story, we'll explore Singapore's journey from past to present. Step by step, we'll see how this tiny island grew into a rich nation. We'll learn the key reasons behind its success. We'll also look at the problems it faces today and its plans for the future. This is the story of how a very small place became a very rich country. A small place long ago. Long time ago, Singapore was just a small island. Its location made it important. It sits near a busy sea route. Ships traveling between Asia and Europe often passed by. This made Singapore a great place for trade. Later, the British came to the island. They saw its perfect location for trading. In 1819, they started a colony there. Singapore became a port where ships could buy and sell goods. This lasted many years and changed the island. In 1965, Singapore became an independent country. This meant it was no longer under British rule. But it was a tough time. Singapore was very small. It didn't have natural resources like oil or minerals, so it couldn't sell these to make money. Many people didn't have jobs. Unemployment was high. Life was hard for many families. Housing was also a big problem. There weren't enough homes for everyone. Many people lived in poor, crowded areas. The new leaders knew they had big problems to solve. They needed to create jobs and build homes quickly. These were the first big steps to help people live better lives. Singapore had to start with very little, just its location and hard work. After independence in 1965, Singapore faced many challenges. There were not enough jobs. A lot of people didn't have work. Housing was also a serious problem. Many lived in poor conditions, in crowded slums. The new government saw that life had to improve fast. Singapore's leaders made strong plans to solve these problems. They knew jobs and housing were connected. One of their first actions was to build new homes. These were government-built homes, called public housing. They wanted everyone to have a clean, safe, and affordable home. In the 1960s, only 9% of people lived in public housing, but the government worked quickly and built many homes. Today, more than 80% of people in Singapore live in public housing. Having a stable home gave people hope and security. To create jobs, the government needed companies to invest. They worked to bring foreign businesses to Singapore. They offered low taxes and other benefits to attract them. They also created a stable place for work. Before independence, worker strikes were common. Strikes made companies afraid to invest, so the government made rules to reduce strikes. This gave businesses confidence to come to Singapore. At first, the country focused on manufacturing, making products in factories. They began with jobs that needed many workers, like textiles and electronics. This helped reduce unemployment fast. Making and exporting goods became key to growing the economy. Manufacturing was the first big step in building wealth. By the 1970s and 1980s, Singapore was a manufacturing hub. It even became the world's top maker of hard disk drives. This gave many people their first jobs and built the foundation for more growth. But leaders knew factory work alone wasn't enough. They wanted more than just simple jobs. So in the 1980s, big changes began. Singapore moved from basic products to high-tech industries. This needed more training and skilled workers. The country also started focusing on finance, the money, business. This included banking, investments, and other financial services. The government made it easier for these businesses to grow. They wanted Singapore to be a major financial center in Asia. They invited big global companies to set up offices and headquarters. Why did they come? Singapore had good business conditions and low taxes. This new focus on finance and services was important. It was different from making things. It used skills and knowledge. Over time, services grew bigger than manufacturing. Singapore became known as a great place to start and grow a business. This brought more wealth and more jobs needing different talents. It was a key step in becoming a rich country. Singapore also wanted to be a great place to live, not just to work. Making the city beautiful helped both people and businesses. If people liked living there, they would stay. So would companies and wealthy investors. This was a big part of Singapore's success. In the 1970s, Singapore began adding land to the island. They made the country bigger by reclaiming land from the sea. On this land, they built offices, homes, and fun places too. The skyline became taller and more modern. Parks and green spaces made the city pleasant and clean. These changes helped attract both residents and businesses. To make the city even more exciting, they added special events and attractions. One major event is the Formula One race, held at night on city streets. It brings visitors from all over the world. Singapore also allowed big resorts with casinos, called integrated resorts. Building these attractions and hosting major events brought more tourists. It was the right move at the right time. Countries nearby, like China and India, had strong economies. Many rich people from those countries had more money to spend and invest. Singapore was in a perfect position to attract this wealth. They came to enjoy the casinos, the nightlife, the luxury shopping, and the modern city. Just as important, they could also keep their money in Singapore. This helped Singapore's economy grow. Over the years, the total amount of money managed for these rich individuals and companies became very, very large. By making the city fun and attractive, Singapore brought in more visitors and more money. Wealthy people and their businesses were drawn to the modern buildings, clean parks, and exciting things to do. This plan worked well. It made Singapore even richer and more successful. It showed something important. Being a great place to live is just as valuable as being a good place to work. The focus wasn't only on jobs and homes anymore. It was about making life enjoyable too. This was a big change. Before, the focus was on factories and simple jobs. Now the economy grew in new ways by attracting global wealth and creating a lifestyle city. But there's another side to the story. Singapore is also very expensive. It's known as one of the costliest places in the world. Some things, like buying a car, cost much more than in other countries because of high taxes. Clothing can also be pricey. However, not everything is expensive. Items like personal care, household goods, and domestic help can be cheaper than in many big cities. Salaries in Singapore are generally good. A typical salary, the kind most people earn, is a few $1,000s each month. but about 20% of that money must go into a special savings account. This is required by law. People can't spend that money right away. They can only use it for important things, like buying a home, paying medical bills, or education. This system helps people save for the future, but it also means they have less cash to spend each month. There are also many rich people in Singapore. In fact, more than 184,000 millionaires live there. That's a lot for such a small country, but it also means there's inequality, a big gap between the rich and the rest. We can measure this gap with a number. In one recent year, that number was 0.356. A lower number means money is more equally shared. Singapore's number is higher than in places like Germany or Japan. This tells us that the gap between rich and poor is bigger in Singapore. So while the country is rich overall, not everyone feels rich. Some people feel the difference in wealth very clearly. The government knows this is a serious issue, and it is something they are thinking about and trying to improve. New voices, new plans. Singapore has grown rich, but not everyone agrees on how things are run. Some people talk about rules around free speech. In the past, it was hard to criticize the government. People were sometimes afraid to speak openly. Even today, some rules still limit free speech. But things are changing. Singapore's people are becoming more diverse. They come from many places and backgrounds. They are also speaking out more than before. They have opinions, and they want to be heard. Singapore now has a new Prime Minister, Lawrence Wong. He grew up in public housing. Just like most Singaporeans, some people feel he understands the lives of everyday citizens better. They say he has a common touch. He wants to build on what Singapore has done well. He says he wants to keep the country strong and successful. But there are also growing concerns among the people. One big worry is about jobs. Singapore has brought in many foreign workers to help the economy. But some citizens feel that these workers are taking the best jobs. They worry about having good opportunities for themselves. Politics is also starting to change. The same ruling party has led Singapore for many years, but its popularity is not as strong as before. More voices are speaking out. Politics may become more active and more competitive. This means the new Prime Minister has a big job ahead. He must listen to the people and include their concerns. He needs to manage the issues of jobs and foreign workers. He must also guide Singapore into the future. The country needs to stay strong while adapting to change. It needs to balance success with fairness. Looking forward, there are new challenges ahead. One major challenge is that people are getting older. Singapore's population is aging. Many people live longer now. This means there will be more older people and fewer young workers. It will be harder to find enough workers in the future. Older people also need more care and medical help. The government will have to spend more on health services. That puts pressure on the country's money and resources. Singapore needs new plans to support its aging population. Another challenge is global competition. Singapore was one of the first Asian countries to grow fast, but now other countries are catching up. They are working hard to improve their economies too. They also want to attract business and talent. This means Singapore faces more competition. It must stay creative and keep improving to stay ahead. Climate change is a serious issue too. Singapore is a small island surrounded by the sea. If sea levels rise, there could be flooding. Storms may become more common. The country needs to build strong protections like seawalls. Protecting the island is critical for the future. Singapore's new leader, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, has a big job. He must guide the country through all these new challenges. He must keep the economy strong. He must help with aging and health care. He must protect the land from climate change. And he must make sure Singapore can still compete globally. At the same time, he needs to listen to the people. Many citizens worry about jobs, the cost of living, and foreign workers. He must find solutions that work for everyone. Singapore has done many things well. It has become a rich and modern country, but the future holds big questions. Now the work is to keep Singapore successful, and fair for all its people.